Here we are. We're live.
Hello.
Hi, everybody. As you know, I'm Vicki, and this is our cousin Natalie Mack. Say hey, Natalie. Yeah.
Hello. Hello.
So, Natalie, before we start, tell everybody a little bit about you. So, Natalie's one of our good friends and one of our Seven Sisters cousins. So, if you ever want to get some, fun advice, we have links on the Seven Sisters Stuff We Like page over to Natalie's
Yeah.
resources. So, anyway, Natalie, tell a little bit about you and your homeschool family.
Yeah. So I am a retired Navy chaplain spouse. He retired a year ago, December 1. So we're still in the adjustment phase, but I'm loving it on the other side of
Mm,
active duty. And we have 5 children. So we've graduated 4 to college and on, and we have a 10th grader that we are still homeschooling. It's been 22 years. And I do own a consulting mentoring business, Natalie Mack, for homeschoolers. I focus a lot on military homeschooling, and that's my
mm,
passion. That's who I am.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I also wear a hat over on the HSLDA side as the military community outreach coordinator.
yeah. Yeah, you've got a lot of hats, and so I
I've got the
appreciate
hat. Well,
one hat being
you do
talking
too,
to.
lady. You have lots of hats
Yeah,
too.
we homeschool moms, we have to wear lots of hats,
We
and so we
do.
get really good at
We
switching them
do.
up. So,
So true.
mm. So today, because it's January, and in my part of the country, up here in the Maryland, Delaware, Pennsylvania area, it's like gray all winter
Yes.
long,
Yes.
and so it's a perfect time to talk about teens and depression because sometimes we see a little more of that in the winter time.
Right.
So
Right.
before we start, though, both Natalie and I have mental health backgrounds, and so we have to say we're not giving you counseling. We're
Exactly.
sharing some wisdom and tips. So
Exactly. No
yeah.
counseling.
Yeah. So, okay. So, Natalie, you've been with military families and the military family all this time. And
Yes.
let's just start right there. Like, military families, not just the spouse in the military serves the country, but the
Right.
whole family does. So, how does that lifestyle affect teens?
Yes, that's. I love when I hear that because when you said that not just the military member serves, but the
Hmm.
whole family serves,
Hmm.
and it's so true. And sometimes people don't really think about the family, the spouse and the
Yeah.
children,
Yeah.
but military life. And we have loved it. I'm passionate about serving our country. It's been a blessing. We've traveled all over the world, but in that moving around, you can imagine the adjustments that are
Hmm.
needed,
Hmm.
mentally, emotionally, physically, right? Moving into different spaces,
Yeah.
and it's a challenge for many people, not just the spouse, right?
Hmm.
But also for the kids to make that adjustment. Some children are more kind of like my personality, like let's go, extrovert. This is awesome, change.
Hmm.
Let's see
Hmm.
it. Let's meet new
Hmm.
people. Others are like, no, I
Hmm.
don't want things to change and I'm
Yeah.
uncomfortable with it. And with military kids, they don't have a choice. Not that children typically do, period, right? Whether you're military or not, the adults, right? The parents make
Mhm.
the decision. But in military families, oh, we got to go in 2 years or 3 years, or it could be in a couple of months,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so it's that, woo, we got to go, we got to move, and you have to let go, and you have to look forward to like who you're going to meet new somewhere
Mhm,
else. And some kids, it's a big adjustment for. So you'll see bouts of depressive, like right,
mhm,
uh, seasons that teens and children
mhm.
in general, even though I know we're focusing on teens with this, but in
Yeah,
general, they will struggle a little bit to
mhm,
adjust. So it's really good to kind of be able to identify and look at what may be going on, and
yeah,
how you as a parent, right, especially as a
yeah.
homeschool parent, you're going to see it in a way you may not have seen it if they were not with you as many hours, right?
Right, right. Yeah, and all the moves, a military family or any family that's relocating. So
Exactly.
it can be a small move or across the country or across
Exactly.
the world. The startup energy that it takes to get new routines and new food and new locations, new friends and new church, all those things.
A new house.
Yeah, yeah, and
Yeah.
that is, it's not a bad thing. But it takes emotional and physical energy, and then that can leave teens, especially because their bodies are doing so much, with all
Yes.
the hormonal stuff.
Yes. Yes.
And so they can get draggy
They
and
can get
down.
ready. Hmm.
Yeah,
You're
more
so right.
easily.
You're right. Definitely so. Yeah,
Yeah.
it can be a struggle. And you may see a change with their behavior, which I know we're gonna talk a little bit about, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, and then another thing that we see, it being January and this part of the country where it's so gray, is there's not enough sunlight. And
Yes.
this is a thing, like this is a real thing.
Yes.
Is that if we don't get enough sunlight on our eyes and enough sunlight on our skin, our optic nerves don't transmit the energy that they get from the sunlight. There's too much chemistry for me, but it actually stimulates our emotion centers in our brain and makes us feel okay. Our skin needs the vitamin D. It's a mood enhancer,
Yes.
and we don't get that, especially this part of the country. Now, I grew up in Florida, and I never felt down in January growing up in
Right.
Florida.
Right.
But up
Right.
here, it's like I can get up in the morning and feel sad, like
Yeah.
for no reason. Like I
Right,
just
for
feel
no reason. Yeah, and that's why they call it SAD, right? The
yeah,
seasonal affective disorder, right?
yep,
So
yep,
I purchased the light recently, Vicki. I haven't like gotten it plugged in yet, but it's just I'm gonna try it. Heavy during
yes,
the Amazon, right?
yep,
And
yep.
because you are so right, and I've noticed different parts of the country where we have lived, like Southern California, we've lived there twice. And wow, it's like, I love it. I
I
just
know,
felt like alive and like
sunshine.
everything was great. Even if
Yeah,
it wasn't quite great, it felt great. Your
yeah,
outlook, right? Your outlook was
yeah.
positive. Southern Arizona, the same way. You mentioned Florida. Here, back, which is home, I'm like, oh, okay.
It's
Why,
yeah.
Germany, I loved it, but I felt that same kind of, it was
Mhm,
like a lot of, more
mhm,
dreary
mhm,
rain,
mhm.
you know,
Yeah, and the
Washington, right? State has
the
Seattle, right? Has a
The
struggle, right?
gray, the gray, and also the amount of sunlight during the day. Like I flew down and saw my grandbabies down in
Oh,
Florida
that's
last weekend,
awesome, Vicky.
and the daylight hours are longer that
Yes,
far down compared to up here. So
yes,
anyway, what it looks like, seasonal affective disorder, it can be an actual disorder like incapacitating, keep you in bed, feel
yes.
miserable, or it can just be a little bit draggy or downish feeling.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
I, like you said, you got a light. I have a light, and
Yes,
it's called a seasonal affective disorder light, and I
yes,
plug it in the mornings and
yes,
leave it on for half an hour, just in the corner of the room. Or
yes.
if it's a really black, gray day and it's been going on for days, I'll put it on a table nearby me. But
Awesome.
literally, it's something we can do. And,
Yeah, yes,
teens sometimes think that's kind of a cool idea and kind of hip. And so
yes.
they'll go for that, if
Right,
if
right.
you so we're getting one of the cool lights.
You're right,
That's another
exactly,
kind of light.
exactly. Yeah, and everyone, even teens love seeing the Amazon truck come. So there's that, right?
I know, right? So, yeah, and they're not too expensive, really. I mean, mine is, oh my gosh, mine is like 10, 15 years old. So
Yeah,
yeah, they last a long time.
right,
Yeah.
right. I got this small one just to try it because I've
Mhm.
never
Mhm.
tried it, but I felt like, okay, this might be a good year to try it
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
that I don't like that. I'm not comfortable with
Mhm.
that feeling of awakening and feeling
Mhm.
that kind of sad feeling for no
Yeah.
reason because I'm like looking around mentally thinking, what is it? What's going on? And
Mhm.
you can't always grasp anything that you can identify that triggered it. So
Yeah.
that makes it even harder, I think, when you can't
Yeah.
really like nab it and figure out, okay, what this is what's causing it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and so some things are easy to take care of because we have a simple life. Or, sometimes what teens need is just more outside time.
Yes,
And when they are in nose to the books all the time,
yes,
and that's a good thing,
right,
they're not getting outside enough. And
right.
so to say, okay, phys ed time, we're
Yeah,
going on a family hike or whatever,
yeah.
you may find that might be enough to kind of break that cycle. So
Exactly,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
And it can be, the teen years, the high school years, even in a homeschool community, teens are often like, okay, what am I supposed to do next? You
Mhm.
know, where do I go next? What if I'm going to college? What kind of college? They have all these concerns that are part
Mhm.
of like normal development,
Mhm.
normal
Mhm.
growing up, but they may be feeling some kind of way about it, and
Yeah.
they may not even know how to say something to you as a parent that
Yeah.
I'm struggling. They may think, oh, this is normal,
Mhm.
right? And
Mhm.
some of it is, but some
Mhm.
of it could be where you could provide some type of resources to help, even just being able to talk out a plan
Yeah.
for their
Yeah.
life, right?
Mhm.
Sometimes just talking it out helps, and sometimes
Mhm.
there's other measures, right, that you might need to.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's a good step one. If you notice your teen seeming to change, like draggier, more complaining,
Yes.
like
Sleeping even
they,
more than
yeah.
teens sleep, right?
Yeah, that a lot of times they won't use words. They don't have words to describe
Exactly.
what's going on. So like us moms, sometimes if we're feeling kind of depressed, we might cry a lot,
Yeah.
and or we might complain a lot because we've got more experience and more words. But
Exactly.
teens often will just hold it in and be sullen or isolate. So that's things that we want to look on. Like if it's crossed over from they just need some walks, ride in the car and chat with mom, or go out and get coffee and have some
Right.
one-on-one time and just talk about things. Sometimes
Exactly.
it goes over into depression, and that's not a like, oh, this is a horrible thing, I'm a bad mom kind of
Right.
thing. Like, teens have hormones, and
Yes. Yes.
hormones sometimes wonk their neurotransmitters,
Yes.
and if the neurotransmitters get too low, like serotonin gets too
Serotonin.
low,
Hmm.
then what they will feel is sadness. But
Yes.
they may not have a word for it, but they will feel sad. It's hard to concentrate on their
Yes.
schoolwork. They'll
Very.
feel like
Mhm.
their body is heavy, like they just
Exactly. Yeah, like they just want to like fade away, basically, right? Just
yeah.
go somewhere else, and you'll find them sleeping a lot because
Mhm.
it's kind of like a feeling of like, okay, if I just sleep,
Mhm.
then
Mhm.
I don't have to be engaged mentally with whatever is causing me the sadness. And
Yeah.
then we know, right? You awaken, and those feelings haven't gone anywhere. They are
Yeah.
still there.
Yeah.
So and then a lot of times a lack of interest in normal activities. I know Vicki and
Mhm.
I have talked about, and many of you all have probably may have noticed coming out of COVID,
Mhm.
that here in our community we're struggling. Let teens, come on out. Where are you? I've had
Yeah.
conversations on social media with other homeschoolers in our areas, and they're saying some of the similar things that I've seen even with my 10th
Mhm.
grader.
Mhm.
Is like, okay, I really don't want to do what they
Mhm.
used to do, or,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
we've had to help him
Mhm.
push through by being truly the parent and
Yeah.
saying, okay, we know something's not right.
Mhm.
It's not clinically wrong, but it's
It's off.
different. It's
Mhm.
off,
Mhm.
and we can identify it as the
Mhm.
adult, as the parent, and we took actions to say, okay, you're gonna get back into soccer. You're
Uh-huh.
gonna get back into scouts the way it was.
Mhm.
Different things. The youth group and our support
Mhm.
group at Belvoir, is a great one. And
Mhm.
so we like, we gotta, let's get back in. And so
Mhm.
we slowly see it helping. But
Yeah. Yeah.
sometimes, right, maybe
Yeah.
you may need to you just need to make that assessment and see, take some time to
Right.
figure out what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's sometimes there can be depressive feelings or a whole depressive episode when
Yeah.
there's trauma in the background, like a
Yes.
pandemic
Yes.
is for young people. They don't have the life experience that we have.
Yes.
Of course, we didn't have experience of the pandemic either.
Right, right.
But and so it is harder for them to make all of the changes and adjustments and to live with that level of stress. And so yeah, and so we watch and sometimes have to do a little nudging when it's safe for them to get out and
That's so
be
true.
participating again because they've learned to be kind of down and in.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, and I noticed, like, for me, and I know COVID, everyone experienced the COVID period,
Mhm,
and some may say we're still in it, but
mhm,
for what we all agree is that for the most part, everyone's out, activities and things of that.
mhm,
So, for me, I got a lot of things done.
mhm,
It was there were some really good periods doing it, as hard as that is to say, considering the effect it had on us as people, right? But so if you're like me as a mom, you may be like, oh, I got a lot done, things were okay. I didn't have as many out of the house pulls, so I was able to like focus more. But for our kids, they may be feeling differently. And if
mhm,
you haven't had that conversation, then it may be something you want to consider, especially if you're seeing behavior change and things that warrant concern.
yeah,
Um, we,
yeah,
we actually see it more because once again, we are homeschooling. So in
right,
general, we have the time, right, to see it as parents. So
yeah. So if it's, with our teens, if we notice an ongoing, like it becomes a pattern or a lifestyle of our teens being glum and isolating and not being, like you said, interested in things they used to be,
right,
and they're sleeping a lot, can't.
easily frustrated, easily
Mhm,
to anger,
mhm,
right?
mhm,
Like if you feel like they aren't handling things well that normally they would handle, or they easily get upset or frustrated, or anger,
mhm,
bouts of anger, expressive bouts of anger, then
mhm. Yeah,
something's going on.
something's going on, and
Right.
that's it. Like that's not an accusation towards them or
No,
to
not at
you.
all. Not at all.
It's just a thing. And like
Yeah,
if we had a cavity in our tooth, it's a thing. It
it's
needs
a
to take.
thing, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, it's just a
it,
thing. And so
right.
the cool thing about depression is it's a treatable thing, just like cavities are treatable.
Exactly.
And it's so nice that we do have resources available for teens, and if
Yeah.
they are feeling more than like just taking a walk, like that's not gonna, it's not enough, like
Yeah.
spending more time together, that's not enough, they just are just too far down.
Yeah.
um the good idea is to take them to their pediatrician or family
Yes.
doctor,
Exactly.
and make sure that there's not something biological going on, because
Mhm.
if they're
Mhm.
anemic, if their thyroid's off,
Mhm.
if
Mhm.
their blood sugar's wonky,
Yeah. Yeah.
all of those can make them feel depressed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And so,
Exactly. Definitely.
to weed those things out, because those are treatable in a different way than like
If
you or
it's
I
a
would do in our counseling hats.
yes.
Um, but also teens generally in this generation love counseling,
Mhm.
like it's a hip thing to do. And
Mhm.
so that your pediatrician, if they see that this is a like this is not a physiological thing, or it may be low serotonin, but
Right.
what it needs is the therapeutic process that comes with words.
Exactly. Right.
and
Right.
and that's because God created the whole universe with his words,
Yes.
and he made healing to happen with words too, because we're
Exactly.
in his
Exactly.
image.
And it's phenomenal how much of an impact just being able to talk with someone else
Hmm.
and help them process their
Hmm.
feelings, their
Hmm.
emotions, even planning whatever could be the challenge that's triggering it, right? And so I always tell parents, sometimes people, we just, we have these discussions about depression and any other mental health challenge that we experience as
Hmm.
people, and moms typically, right? And
Hmm.
this is not an indictment, this is to hug on you moms, right?
Hmm.
To
Hmm.
say that don't panic and feel like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. Or like Vicki said, it's
Right.
something that you've done wrong or that your child has done wrong.
Mhm.
You have the opportunity to like see it, identify it, or at least, think
Mhm.
that you identify it. Go seek experienced counsel, like
Mhm.
Vicki mentioned,
Mhm.
and it's in large measure, it's very treatable, and it could be just
Mhm.
like we talked about, just to meet with someone and talk
Mhm.
out some of what's going on in there, right?
Yeah.
So, um,
Yeah.
Yeah, don't beat up on yourself, and don't
Mhm.
and also the sooner you're able to get the help, the less, if it is true, right, what we call DSM-5
Yeah.
diagnosis, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
If it's true, then you want to try to identify it, like all things, right? You
Mhm.
want to
Mhm.
identify it earlier, right? If something's
Mhm.
causing you to get angry, you identify it and not let it
Mhm.
simmer.
Yeah.
It doesn't
Yeah.
explode.
Yeah, yeah, and that's it, to be that blessing to your teens, to provide them what they need.
Yeah,
And then here's another thing that I've seen be very useful is sometimes moms can model some things that are helpful that teens will pick up. They won't let you know this, but they pick it up by modeling.
yes,
So
yes,
to model, let's go for walks, let's stay
yes,
hydrated, let's eat our fruits and
yes,
vegetables because that's what makes our serotonin.
yes,
um, let's talk about things that we are grateful for.
yes.
That's not denying the depression. It's giving some vitamins, like gratitude is a vitamin
So
that
true.
helps recover from
Exactly.
depression.
Laughter, you
Mhm.
know,
Mhm. Mhm.
I know, and I even, quite honestly, this, and then again, putting a disclaimer out there, we're not, providing medical or anything,
Mhm.
advice or anything,
Yeah.
but just personal experience.
Mhm.
I even take a sublingual B
Uh-huh.
multivitamin because
Mhm.
I have found that, at the pace I love to go life at, you know, I don't,
Yeah.
it helps me stay kind of
Mhm.
balanced. And when I'm feeling kind of like, oh,
Mhm.
I'm like, oh, I haven't been taking my B. So that's
Yeah.
just something for me,
Mhm.
to consider. And I'm sure a lot of others have found
Yeah.
supplements
Yeah.
that, the that would do what they're supposed to do,
Yeah.
supplement, right? Your
Yeah,
nutrition.
because we're whole beings, spirit, soul, and body. So as we moms
Exactly.
learn how we work and
Yes.
model that, like for me, I need a certain dose of outside every
Yes.
day.
Yep.
And they have found by research that being out in nature, even
Yes.
for a few minutes, will
Yes.
help activate some of the calm down and healing centers in your
Yeah.
brain.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so that's, I've had to build that into my lifestyle, not as a frivolous thing, but as a healthy. So
Awesome.
when you walk the walk,
Yes.
it just sets an atmosphere. Teens and all kids learn a lot about life just by watching mom and dad.
I love that. I love that. And I probably need to incorporate that too, because I find myself kind of venturing towards a large, big window, like,
Mhm.
or
Mhm.
I will find myself, ending up going outside
Mhm.
if I'm processing something. And I never
Yes.
really fully thought
Yeah.
about it. But now that you said that, wow, okay.
Yeah.
So we're
Yeah.
all learning. We're all learning.
Yeah, this like God gave us all things richly to enjoy, and the outside is one of those. So,
Exactly. Exactly.
yeah. Okay, I guess we should wrap things up. So, Natalie, any other advice you'd give our friends?
Um, Let me see. I just think that as difficult as these type of conversations can be, they don't have to be. They really
Mhm.
don't. And so I just
Mhm.
want to caution against any kind of shame or blaming
Mhm.
or anything that sometimes people feel, or even, I dare venture and say this, but even, you're not, your faith, you don't believe enough, or you've
Mhm.
done something wrong,
Mhm.
right? That
Mhm.
God is punishing you, all of those kinds of things. Personally,
Mhm.
I haven't found those to be true or effective at all, and I don't believe that that's in line with how God has
Yeah.
called us as
Mhm.
His people. So
Yeah.
I know we all listening may have different walks and different
Mhm.
faith journeys and all, but just be aware that it's okay. It's not anything
Yeah.
you've done wrong.
Yeah. 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 Absolutely. So hopefully there's a few tips and encouragement that will help folks. Oh, by the way, tomorrow on Homeschool High School podcast, we have Natalie will be on, and she's talking about starting things
Oh,
because
yes.
there's if you've noticed, like we homeschool moms end up having to start things because it's not around,
Yes.
and so just the fun ideas about starting things. It's just a fun
For
episode.
our homeschoolers, right? Putting on
We,
one other hat,
that is one of those hats. Yep, yep. And that's it. That it's we're creating God's image. We're creative folks, and starting things is one of them. So anyway, I think everybody was
Exactly.
going to enjoy that episode
Thank you.
tomorrow
Thank you.
morning.
Thank
Yeah,
you. I always appreciate all that
yeah,
Seven Sisters does. And
yeah,
so I spread it around the military community just because it's so awesome of a resource.
yeah.
So thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you. Thank you.
yeah, we are all in this together. All right, well, everybody, have a good day, and please feel free to throw questions in the comments or send us info at sevensistershomeschool.com,
Yes.
and because we all are all in this homeschool thing together. All right,
Yes.
everybody, have a good day. We'll see ya.
Okay. Bye bye.
Bye bye.